afternoon and welcome to this council meeting of Bass Coast Shire Council, 16th of April, coming to you from the beautiful Burn and Eat in Cowes this afternoon. I'd like to remind everybody to please turn off all mobile phones, or in the case of an emergency, please advise the chair and switch to silent mode. We acknowledge the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters and pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to hand over to Councillor Bauer to now read the councillor statement. Thank you, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on this agenda based on the individual merits of each item, without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper and prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or vote on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Item 1 on the agenda is present and apologies. I do have an apology from Councillor Brett Tassari, the Deputy Mayor, today. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, councillors? No, thank you. Confirmation of minutes. Council meeting held on the 19th of February 2025. Do I have a mover, please?
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Temby. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Temby and Councillor O'Brien. I put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously. Item 4 on the agenda is the Mayor and Councillor reports. Councillors will forego speaking to their monthly report and they will be included in the council meeting minutes. Item 5 is public questions. Question 1 and 2 both relate to Reid Street Rhyl. They'll be given one response. Shane Doherty, topic, planned rehabilitation of Reid Street Rhyl. Question 1, can council please assist residents of Reid Street in understanding why McIlrath Road from Lock Road to Reid Street and Jansen Road between Lock Road and Reid Street were permanently asphalt sealed with curb and channelling without requiring owner contributions when they are all classed urban access 2 roads? Question 2, how can council assist with providing the residents of Reid Street a new asphalt primer seal, in brackets where necessary, with 50% of property owners accepting upfront payment and 50% accepting the special charge scheme? Thank you, Mr Box.
Through the Mayor. McIlrath Road and Jansen Road were constructed in the 1980s to the standards required by the Shire of Phillip Island. The road construction may have been funded through developer grants, council or private street scheme. A special charge scheme would be required to facilitate an upgrade based on the current level of support indicated by property owners. Council will consider reprioritising street upgrades on the priority list of the Urban Roads and Drainage Improvement Policy 2024 if there is strong support from property owners to financially contribute. Council officers are available to provide further information.
Question 3, Louise Lyle, topic, correspondence. Residents and ratepayers send emails and letters to councillors and council staff regularly, but often do not receive a reply, especially from councillors. Is there a policy document stating time, a frame that emails and correspondence should legally be answered? Thank you, Mr Box.
Through the Mayor. Whilst there is no legal requirement, Council's customer charter states that customer requests must be responded to within 10 business days. Customers can log a request by contacting Council directly through the methods outlined on our website, including by email, phone or a customer service centre. These requests are formally recorded and actioned.
Question 4, Louise Lyle, topic, Engage Bass Coast. The Engage Bass Coast page is missing vital information on the special charge schemes. Most of the useful documents are useless as they cannot be accessed. Will Council please check their information prior to submitting errors on the site?
Through the Mayor. Council have been able to locate one error where site visitors would not have been able to open a document on a special charge scheme page. This is at the Esplanade, Sunderland Bay to Bateman Street, Surf Beach. This has now been corrected and we apologise for any inconvenience. Any website issues can be reported for immediate action by contacting Council and submitting a customer request.
Question 5, George Mariotti, topic batteries. Part 1, can Council please release the exact date of order for the batteries and contractors to install the batteries in several locations around Bass Coast? Question 2, was it prior to the said consultation or after?
Through the Mayor, Mondo is installing 7 neighbourhood batteries across Phillip Island in partnership with the Victorian Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action as part of their 100 neighbourhood battery program. Responsibility for procurement, installation, ownership and operation of the batteries rests with Mondo. Council is supporting the project by providing leases for the batteries on council land. And more information on the project's available on the Mondo webpage.
Question 6, Philip Davey, topic URDI 2024. The properties adjacent the newly constructed roads supposedly receive a special benefit due to the improved property access, improved drainage, less dust, and so they pay. If drainage from other streets contributes additional drainage to the upgrade street, do the other streets also have to contribute costs?
Through the Mayor, all projects funded via special charge schemes must comply with special rates and charges provisions in accordance with the Local Government Act. Special benefits relate to land within a scheme area. Properties outside of a special charge scheme area are not required to contribute.
Question 7, Graham Jolly, topic Gap Road. Would Council please disclose the plans, in brackets next 4 years, for the Gap Road property owned by Council when previously a transfer station, BMX and pump track was spoken of by Council?
Through the Mayor, there are currently no funds specifically allocated to the Gap Road land in the draft capital budget for the next 4 years. However, Council will consider adoption of the mountain bike BMX pump delivery plan at its June meeting. This plan currently includes Gap Road as a potential site. Revegetation of the site will also continue over the next 4 years.
Question 8, Philip Davey, topic Dunvegan Crescent. The 2014 Sunderland Bay Surf Beach Traffic Management Plan commissioned by Bass Coast Shire Council recommended a dedicated right turn bay at Dunvegan Crescent due to safety concerns. Council has ignored this recommendation in the concept plan for Dunvegan Crescent reconstruction. With the increase in traffic volumes, is this a wise decision?
Through the Mayor, the intersection of Phillip Island Road and Dunvegan Crescent is managed by the Department of Transport and Planning. Council has and will continue to advocate to the Department of Transport and Planning regarding the need to have a safer intersection at Phillip Island Road and Dunvegan Crescent.
Question 9, Peter Fogarty, topic Wildlife Volunteers. Does the Bass Coast Councillor cohort or any individual councillor associate with any person or group that intimidates or not support or challenge wildlife volunteers who are trying to protect native wildlife? If so, question 1, who are the councillors or councillor associating with such persons or groups? 2, why does the council cohort or councillor associate with such persons or groups?
Through the Mayor, councillors engage with many individuals and community groups across Bass Coast and are committed to the protection of our native flora and fauna. Councillors will not engage with those that do not uphold Council's values or condone poor behaviour toward other members in the community.
Question 10, John Cantone, topic livability. Given that Council exists to serve the ratepayers, not lobby groups or state departments, how will you immediately prioritise livability, lifestyle and wellbeing outcomes for the 35,000 paying residents, including delivery of temporary pump tracks, reserve upgrades and accountability reporting before the community is forced to escalate calls for systemic reform?
Through the Mayor, following election, the Council is required to develop a community vision, Council plan, long-term financial plan, municipal health and wellbeing plan, budgets and action plans following community consultation. Council also has a hardship policy to assist those that may be experiencing financial difficulties.
Question 11, John Kuzma, Topic: councillors. Are all elected councillors classified as employees of council covered by occupational health and safety, workplace harassment and workers' compensation? Please explain.
Through the Mayor, Victorian local government councillors are not classified as employees for occupational health and safety purposes. While they have obligations under the Occupational Health and Safety Act 2004, their obligations are different from those of employees. They have a duty to take reasonable care for their own health and safety and to avoid causing harm to others.
Question 12, Joe Warrilow. Topic: Carnival Landing Cows. A number of local real estate agents have not been able to read details of a land title for a council-owned property known as the Carnival Land in Cows. Would council please explain why the title is not public for reading?
Through the Mayor, all titles related to the Carnival Land in Cows are available through Victoria's online land title and property information service, Land Data.
Question 13, Mario Boffa. Topic: memberships. Would council please provide a listing of all memberships, subscriptions, memorandums and partnerships with costs to council for the period 1st of July 2024 to the 31st of December 2025? I'm going to answer this one, Mr Box, if I can. This request requires significant resources to respond to. The information will be provided on the council website in the coming months. Question 14, Gina Rossamilia. Topic: climate emergency. Would council please provide actual expenses details towards the council declared climate emergency 2019 until the 31st of March 2025, excluding beach erosion works?
Through the Mayor, council has expended $2.68 million on climate emergency related projects since September 2019. This includes funding for BioLinks revegetation, planting over 2.5 million trees in our rural landscapes, urban forest implementation, planting 1,400 trees in our townships, solar-powered systems on more than 30 community buildings, programs and initiatives to help households and businesses reduce their emissions and costs. In this period, council has reduced its CO2 emissions by over 50% and continues to work towards its target of net zero by 2030.
Question 15, Fred Morris. Topic: capital projects. Council's half-year report ending 31st of December 2024 shows 16 capital projects with over expenditure of $906,435. If the councillors, the CEO and senior staff approved the overspend, please explain further details as to why.
Through the Mayor, unforeseen issues can arise once projects are underway, often due to site conditions. Resulting changes in scope can impact the project budget. Council has clear governance rules about managing and monitoring budgets, with approvals for any additional spending aligning with the procurement policy financial delegation. While some projects have shown over expenditure, others are under, and the total program is forecast to be within the overall budget.
Question 16, Terry Parkin. Topic: Hilton Chadwick Reserve. Recently, council reported the detailed design for the new safety turning lane and crossovers had been submitted to the Transport Authority for a permit. Has council applied for multiple permits for services to authorities needed for Hilton Chadwick Reserve and the Carnival Land?
Through the Mayor, to apply for permits with relevant authorities for the Hilton Chadwick Reserve and Carnival Land, detailed designs are required. At this stage, council has only completed detailed design work for the safety turning lane into the site. As detailed designs are completed for the remainder of the site, council will continue to apply for the relevant permits as required.
Question 17, Ernie Westergaard. Topic: speed reductions. A senior council officer mentioned in speaking at the San Remo Community Information Session that the Victoria Government had advised and recommended speed limit reductions to roads across the Bass Coast Shire. Would council please explain further, and why has council agreed to changes?
Through the Mayor, the Victorian Government have not recommended a speed limit reduction across Bass Coast Shire Council. Speed limit reviews are conducted regularly and assessed on a case-by-case basis.
Question 18, Bill Wilson. Topic: Phillip Island Recreation Reserve Master Plan. Council's Phillip Island Recreation Reserve Master Plan 2023 shows new sporting ovals. When will the detailed designs for the new ovals and the safety traffic turning lane be provided to the public for comment?
Through the Mayor, detailed designs for sporting ovals have not commenced. Council have completed draft detailed designs for the turning lane, which are currently with the Road Authority for review. The turning lane designs will be published on Council's Engage Bass Coast project page once finalised.
Question 19 and 20 both relate to golden cypress trees and will receive one answer. Joe Warrilow, would Council please direct residents and visitors to Council's Golden Cypress Trees Management Strategy document for the entrance heritage trees leading into Cowes on Phillip Island? Marnie Chadwick, topic Golden Cypress Trees. The Council has yet to plant the promised golden cypress tree in front of the podiatry house on Thompson Avenue, despite assurances to the Friends of the Thompson Avenue Golden Cypress Tree Committee and the community. Instead, a tree was planted in an undesired park location. Why is this?
Through the Mayor, the maintenance and replacement strategy for golden cypress, adopted by Council in June 1999, sets out a 30-year program for the replacement of these iconic trees. The golden cypress along Thompson Avenue are listed on both the Bass Coast Significant Tree Register and the National Heritage Trust Register, highlighting their environmental and cultural value. Council will replace the golden cypress in front of the podiatry house within the next 2 months, aligning with the planting season. Council currently has 5 established golden cypress trees at a depot site ready for future planting and is planning further tissue cultivation to ensure the ongoing health and succession of the avenue. Council continues to work closely with the Friends of the Golden Cypress Group to manage and protect the trees and their legacy.
They certainly are iconic, those trees, Mr Box. Question 21, John Kuzma, topic shared fencing. Would Council explain Council's responsibility to abutting land of which Council owns or manages for shared fencing costs across to adjoining properties?
Through the Mayor. As set out within the Fences Amendment Act 2014, Council is exempt from costs associated with fencing for the following, but not limited to: boundary fencing between private landowners, fencing abutting public land, including public parks, recreational reserves, road reserves, and linear reserves. Consequently, the owner of the land would be responsible for all costs associated with the construction, installation, repair, or replacement of the fence.
Question 22, Mario Boffa, topic carbon offsets. Would Council please advise in numbers and cost how many carbon offsets it has purchased after Council declared a climate emergency?
Through the Mayor, Council has not purchased carbon offsets at any time since the climate emergency declaration was adopted at the September 2019 meeting of Council.
Question 23, Gina Rosamelia, topic advocacy projects. Would Council please provide the new advocacy project listing for capital works and operational projects for the year 2025 to 2026?
Through the Mayor, Council is currently developing a new 4-year Council plan alongside the annual budget. As part of this process, we are also reviewing and updating our advocacy priorities to reflect community needs and strategic opportunities. Our current advocacy priorities are available on Council's website. A refreshed list of state and federal advocacy priorities will be publicly released in July 2025.
Question 24, Sue Chadwick, topic historical board. The original storyboard for the historical avenue of golden cypress trees was displayed outside the old cultural centre but was thrown away when Burn and Eat was built. The avenue is recognised by the National Trust of Australia and the Bass Coast Council. When will this historical board be replaced?
Through the Mayor, there are currently no plans to replace the avenue of golden cypress trees storyboard. However, Council will reach out to the Friends of the Golden Cypress Group to discuss options going forward.
Question 25, Sue Chadwick, topic overpopulation. Bass Coast Shire's unchecked suburban development poses a serious threat to our small island's future. We simply don't have the space, infrastructure or cohesive planning to support it. Our cherished nature tourism relies on a safe and thriving environment. Will the councillors step up to tackle our urgent overpopulation crisis?
Through the Mayor, all regions of Victoria are experiencing the pressures of increasing population, and as a desirable place to live, work and retire, Bass Coast is no different. These pressures are also felt by Council in delivering amenity, infrastructure and services at pace with population growth. The State Government's Distinctive Areas and Landscapes program will ultimately strengthen planning policy to protect our valued nature and tourism sectors containing suburban development to within protected township boundaries.
Question 26, Bill Wilson. Topic, SECA. Council has been a paid member of South East Council's Climate Change Alliance for some 5 years, during which a council employee has been president. How much money has council paid SECA during the time of 5 years?
Through the Mayor, council contributions to SECA over the last 5 years total $357,980, being membership fees of $195,000 and then funding for joint projects and advocacy provided by SECA of $162,800.
Question 27, Ernie Westergaard. Topic, waste collection. Council's waste collection is a 3-bin system. For each bin, would Council please provide the disposal tonnage each month for the period 2023-24 to 2024-25, being 21 months?
Through the Mayor, a table will be provided in the minutes outlining the tonnes of material collected for each stream of Council's curbside collection for the period July 2023 to February 2025. This data is also available online as annual totals for every municipality via the Victorian Government Waste Data Dashboard. A link to this website will also be provided in the minutes.
Question 28, Terry Parkin. Topic, council image. Since the Mayor was elected, the Mayor has been working extremely hard to continually improve the image of council. However, over a long period, managers of council have continually upset residents and continue to do so. Why?
Through the Mayor, we do not agree with the characterisation of managers in the question. Council officers are guided by the strategic direction of Council and implement the decisions made by Council.
Question 29, Fiona Coletta. Topic, traffic signs. Is Bass Coast Shire going to look at putting stop or give way signs on the Woolamai West side of Woolamai Beach Road? As people don't realise, they have to stop and give way and they speed out of the side streets without consideration for the traffic on Woolamai Beach Road. It's a major problem for the residents of Cape Woolamai.
Through the Mayor, Council will go out and make an assessment. However, all the intersections along this section of road are T intersections. In Victoria, T intersections can be managed as uncontrolled intersections. Typically, these intersections do not require specific signage to indicate right-of-way. The general road rules, the physical geometry and threshold treatments at these intersections control who has the right-of-way.
Question 30, Fred Morris. Topic, higher income. The Cows Cultural Centre has multiple rooms upstairs for hire at a cost. How much money has Council received as income for the hire of the upstairs rooms from the time of opening the building?
Through the Mayor, the rooms available for hire upstairs at Bernanite have been booked for a total of 688 hours. Of that, there has been 127 hours booked for community use, and the remainder of the usage has been primarily for council business. The income received for the community use is in line with the fees and charges and has been $1,648.
Question 31, Marnie Chadwick. Topic, Phillip Island property. The 80-acre tree reserve on Phillip Island, sold by commissioners in 1995 against public objection, must be rezoned for perpetuity. This land was repurchased by the community and its potential resale for funds by Bass Coast Council poses a risk. Why does Bass Coast Council hesitate to secure its future?
Through the Mayor, rezoning of the site is not required for progress to occur. Rezoning is a medium-term action in the adopted Phillip Island Recreation Master Plan. It is anticipated that this process will occur in approximately 10 years.
Question 32, Pauline Taylor. Topic, parking. On Phillip Island, parking is at a premium most of the time, not just in holiday times. It is therefore unbelievable that Council is still wavering car parking requirements. The Isle of Wight is an example of this. All parking must be on site. When will Council stop this practice?
Through the Mayor, the ability to apply for parking reductions is a feature across the Victorian planning system. The planning scheme provides a nominal requirement for parking based on the proposed use of land. Car parking waivers are assessed against other criteria. A case-by-case assessment based on each individual site, its location and physical constraints is outlined in the decision guidelines for all car parking assessments and used to determine whether a reduction is appropriate. Council did not waive the Isle of Wight redevelopment site. It was approved through the state government's development facilitation program.
Question 33, Pauline Taylor. Topic, zoo application. Recent advertiser report on proposed 100-acre zoo concerns will exacerbate an already overstretched traffic situation, loss of farmland. Council should be protecting precious farmland. Ecotourism is not the same as a zoo experience. More appropriate for uncongested mainland. Will Council take on board these issues when application is lodged?
Through the Mayor, Council is aware that the Victorian Government has provided funding through the Enabling Tourism Fund to Reptile Encounters to support the development of plans for a new state-of-the-art zoo based in the region. No planning application has been lodged with Council at this time. Should an application be submitted in the future, it will be subject to the usual planning assessment process, including opportunities for community consultation.
Question 34, Rachel Ferguson. Topic, accessibility. Why hasn't Council considered accessibility in their decision to rehabilitate Scenic Drive and other roads across the Shire?
Through the Mayor, roads are managed in accordance with the Road Management Plan, with their primary purpose being for vehicular traffic. Council has considered various aspects in the decision to rehabilitate several roads treated with a dust suppressant seal, including accessibility. Opportunities for the community to have a road upgrade, which includes installing safer concrete paths adjacent to the road, are available through the Urban Roads and Drainage Improvement Policy 2024 through a community-initiated project.
Question 35, Rachel Ferguson. Topic, roads. What are the ongoing cost savings in rehabilitating the roads? Was this a major factor in decision making? Cost saving is the key reason mentioned when talking to officers.
Through the Mayor, the maintenance costs for a dust seal at the end of life is up to 6 times more costly than an unsealed road.
Question 36, Thomas Nixon. Topic, scenic drive. Question 1. Has Council conducted an accessibility and gender impact assessment as required under the Disability Discrimination Act and Gender Equality Act before deciding to revert Scenic Drive to gravel? If so, will the assessment and its findings be made publicly available? Question 2. How does the proposed downgrade of Scenic Drive align with Council's strategic commitments to safety, sustainability and accessibility as outlined in the Council Plan, Urban Roads and Drainage Policy and Access, Equity and Inclusion Plan?
Through the Mayor, question 1. Under the guidelines of the Gender Equality Act 2020, a gender assessment has not been undertaken as this is a road maintenance activity. Council's Road Management Plan 2022 is currently under review and a gender impact assessment will be included in the review process. Question 2, the rehabilitation of Scenic Drive and other streets having dust suppressant seals removed is being carried out in accordance with the long-term management strategy of dust suppression roads adopted by Council in 2013. The long-term management strategy was and still is in accordance with Council's plan and strategic objectives.
Last but not least, question 37. Graham Jolly. Topic, income and expenditure. On a previous occasion during question time, Councillor Halstead indicated Council should report income and expenditure operational costs, particularly for the Cowes Cultural and Community Centre. What progress has our councillors taken towards reporting operational details the community is seeking?
Through the Mayor, Council consolidates its arts and cultural services operations and does not separately account for the revenue and expenditure of Wonthaggi Union Community Arts Centre and Burnaneet. This approach is supported by the centralisation of utilities and other shared overhead costs, including management and staff who work across both facilities. Reporting to the community on overall performance, including venue hire, performance data and audience attendance for both WCAC and Burnaneet separately is under development and will be included in the quarterly performance reporting.
Thank you, Mr Box.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would you like some more water? There we go. Item 6 on the agenda is notices of motion and 6.1 Emergency Services Volunteer Fund. I'd like to hand over to Councillor Jan Thompson.
Through the Mayor, I, Councillor Jan Thompson, hereby give notice that I intend to move a motion at the Council meeting 16th of April 2025, which reads as follows. That the Council 1 requests a report be presented to the May Council meeting that includes A, the total amount of additional revenue the state will receive from the increased tax. B, the impacts on the organisation from the administrative responsibilities transferred to local government. C, details on how the state government is notifying our community of the increase in the charge. D, the amount of revenue received through this charge that will be reinvested in our community. E, details of processes the state government is putting in place for those who may not be able to pay the charge given the current cost of living crisis. 2, continues to support representation made by the Municipal Association of Victoria on this issue. The state government has recently announced a replacement of the current fire services levy, the FSL.
Just before you go on, Councillor Thompson, can I get a seconder for the note? Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Now you can introduce. Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Go for it.
Thank you. The state government has recently announced the replacement of the current fire services levy, the FSL, with the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund, the ESVF. The ESVF will be calculated based on a fixed charge that varies by property type and a variable charge based on property value. The new ESPV These are anticipated to be significantly higher than the current FSL, particularly for our primary producers, our farmers. State government will require council to be the collection agency of the levy through annual rate notices and provide all collected funds, including any through debt recovery, to the state government. The state government's ESVF delivery and administration is problematic for the local government right across Victoria. Designating local councils as the collection agency through the annual rates notices creates an additional administrative burden for councils and a presumption to community local councils are responsible for the tax increases and are directly benefiting from additional income generated. This notice of motion is designed to advocate to the state government that this increased tax on community needs to be managed by the state government, and the responsibility for this revenue collection should not be transferred to local council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. As seconder, Councillor Bauer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting. I fully support this motion. If the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund is adopted by Spring Street, it'll be a classic case of cost shifting from the state government to council. By making the collection of this levy on the rates notices, the state government is camouflaging who should be collecting it and hoping that the community thinks that this is a Bass Coast Shire initiative. The government has not offered to reimburse the Shire for the collection of the levy or the costs involved for non-compliance or the chasing up of the collection of the levy. How many times have I been berated by a ratepayer who complains that Bass Coast Shire has overvalued their property? The same logic can be applied to this levy. I know that there are moves afoot by the MAV to have the levy, or a better word for it, tax, be collected by the government directly, and that all municipalities should refuse to collect it. I wish the MAV all strength to its arm as it puts a flaming blowtorch to this municipal collection of the bushfire levy. As Daenerys in the Game of Thrones, when she wants her dragons to breathe fire, Dracarys. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Is there any other councillor that wishes to speak to the motion? Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Emergency Services Levy Bill is currently delayed in Parliament, so I'm hoping that the Allan Labor government will take this opportunity to listen to some of the concerns from councils and community. But at the end of the day, as many of my colleagues have already suggested, this feeds into the much bigger issue of cost shifting. You know who can and should pay for our emergency fire services? The fossil fuel polluters. The 1 in 3 big corporations who are paying no tax in this country. And here we have state and federal governments pushing more and more costs onto individual people to fight against the very effects caused by the big fossil fuel corporations who aren't paying their fair share of tax. Yes, we need more funding for emergency services. Welcome to the climate crisis, folks. And those who have been burying their heads in the sand opposing climate action have no leg to stand on in this debate. We need emergency services funding, and it's the polluters who should pay for it.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Does anyone else, any other councillors wish to speak for or against the motion?
Just
Councillor Edwards?
thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, this proposed tax, if it goes through, is going to hurt those who carry the most weight and the most risk in our region, and very vulnerable. We're coming into a situation where we're forecasting drought, and the people that this is going to affect most is farmers, and they carry that weight all the time. They carry often large, financial risk at any time, but to have this loaded on them now, to have a fire services levy, many of them are volunteers as well. I understand there'll be an exemption for some of them. However, they apparently don't get that up front. They have to go through and then apply for that. So on top of everything else, there's the financial burden and the mental burden of who this is putting on, who this is intended to go on to and will hurt is those who are most vulnerable in our community and those we value.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Temby?
Madam Mayor, just a very brief comment, and particularly in support of Councillor Morgan's comments. There's no benefit to the council or the ratepayers for us to collect this money. There is a lot of financial and psychological cost for us to try to collect it. And, there's going to be lots of angst everywhere. I fully support passing this motion and making sure that we give support to the MAV to put an end to it.
Thank you, Councillor Temby. Any other councillors? Councillor O'Brien?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, look, I support the motion as well, and I think that while the outcome may be known, I think that we really do, as councillors, have to make it absolutely clear that as a council we consider that this sort of tax by sleight of hand, by pushing it out to councils to collect is not on. It's not on.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Anyone else wish to speak? You'll be summing up, Councillor Thompson, but before you do, I'm just going to add to the debate if I can, given I am the delegate for the Municipal Association of Victoria, and I can say, councillors, that this is a really hot topic right across the sector. The Municipal Association of Victoria has received in excess of 18 notices of motion from around the regions to their state council, which comes up later this month. The understanding is, Councillor Morgan, that you're correct. The debate did go to the upper house of the Legislative Council in Victorian State Parliament and was voted down, but it is expected to come back in the next month. So by having this report come back to council will give us a clear indication of just how this will impact our communities. I understand the impact will be significant, and what concerns me is that our communities are unlikely to understand that this is not an impost that's put on them by their local government. It's an impost that's being applied to them from the state, and it will be our officers that take the phone calls of abuse that we often get when there is a rate increase, let alone having a levy that will more than double in some cases, applied to our residents who are already doing it tough in a cost of living crisis, as Councillor Edwards has pointed out. So that's all I'll say on the matter. And if no one's got anything further to add, I will pass to Councillor Thompson to sum up.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the other councillors for their support with this motion. I do want to add one little thing. It's also another cost impost onto us at the council. The Environment Protection Authority has increased our waste charges by 28%.
I'm going to let that one
order.
slip through
All right,
to you,
thank you.
Councillor Thompson, but during sum up, you're unable to introduce new
Thank you.
information to the debate. So I'll just, you got that one through, but
Thank you. All right, thank you very much for everyone for supporting this. This is very important and we all should take it very seriously. Thank you.
terrific. So all those in favour of the motion before us? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7 on the agenda is petitions, joint letters, deputations and correspondence. I have a petition 7.1 planned rehabilitation of Reed Street, Rill. Do I have a mover? Councillor Bell, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Bauer. Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Bell, would you like to introduce? Oh, no,
No, you just put.
can she speak? Yes, you can speak to this if you'd like to, Councillor Bell. Just
I'm-
supporting your community, aren't
the
you?
community in these dust suppressant removals.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Bell. Did you wish to add anything, Councillor Bauer?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking forward to the officer's report to accompany this petition, and I'm sure we'll have debate once that's been brought before council.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Does any other councillor have anything to add to this petition? Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, I think that this is of such contention, that I do believe that, we need to have a moratorium on this activity. It's very, very difficult to explain to someone that the bitumen is being taken up outside of their property in the name of progress and dust suppression. It makes no sense to a resident, and certainly makes little sense to us. So when speaking with these people, so yeah, certainly in support of this petition, and with a broader view that right around, there's not only Reed Street, there's a whole lot of streets affected, Scenic Drive and well, very many, that taking up bitumen seems to be a retrograde step. We perhaps need to have a rethink about this strategy. Notwithstanding, we know it costs a little more. It's saying one of the answers there was it's 6 times more. I'd be very interested to really have a look at the ledger on each side before we make a decision about this.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Is there any other councillor that...
Of clarification, if I may, Madam Mayor, I'm not quite sure who the officer I should direct this to. Is it true that the ripping up of the sealant is imminent, as was reported?
I think Officer Prendergast, would that be your...
Yeah, through you, Mayor. At the moment, we're doing an assessment. So the notice of works that went out was to inform residents that the intention is to rip it up, as per the road management plan and the dust suppressant council report that was approved. At the moment, we are just doing some further works with the residents in those areas.
Further clarification, so it won't be before next council meeting or before this petition statement?
No, through you, Mayor, no, it won't
Thank you.
be.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Anything further, councillors? I'd just like to ask, following the briefing, Officer Prendergast, can you just give us just a small, understanding of why dust suppressant, my understanding is it's 20 years old and it only has a lifespan of 20 years, and that when the dust suppressant was put down, there wasn't all the underneath that was...
Foundation.
Yeah, the foundation, that we require today was not placed underneath. And then moving forward, it's legislation now that any new road that gets installed is through a special charge scheme charged to the abutting landowners. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor. So yes, there was a dust suppressant trial done approximately 20 years ago, and that trial was deemed unsuccessful 3 years later. So at that time, a number of roads were rehabilitated and the dust suppression was removed. It was also determined at the time those roads that were still in relatively good condition would the dust suppressant would remain until it reached the end of its life. So the roads in question now, these 7 roads that we're talking about, have reached the end of their life with that dust suppressant seal. It's not as simple as just going back over the top. As you rightly pointed out, the foundations and the build-up of the road wasn't completed at the time. The dust suppressant was just put across the road as it was in that condition. And as it's now changed, the roads require significant upgrade in terms of its subsurface before the dust suppressant could be put back on.
Yeah, it's quite technical really, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Okay, thank you. So back to our mover, Councillor Bell. Would you like to sum up or you...
Sure. Yes, we're going to accept the petition, and I think there's going to be more petitions coming from other residents. I feel like there needs to be some more clarity on timeframes, and I look forward to the officers working closely with those communities to ensure that they understand their options around what they can do, and to give them time to get those options, get themselves organised before you rip up their roads.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. I'll put that to the vote. Councillors, all those in favour of accepting the petition? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 8 on the agenda are reports requiring council decision, and 8.1 is the draft 2025-26 budget. I'm handing over to Mr Fulmulter to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council have prepared a draft budget, strategic resource plan and proposed fees and charges for community feedback and public submissions. The salient features of the budget follow. An average rate increase of 3% is proposed, which is in line with the state's rate cap. This will enable service levels to be maintained at current levels and fund necessary investment in infrastructure and asset renewal. A capital program of $31.4 million is proposed. This is supported by external grant funding of $9.8 million, including $3 million for the Cows Streetscapes project and funding for the Tracks and Trails program, pavilion upgrades and road renewals. Council's proposed fees and charges have been reviewed with average increases of 4% in line with projected inflation. Council's waste management service fee has been increased by 7.4% to $617. This fee is calculated applying a cost recovery model and has been significantly impacted by a 28% increase in the state's Environmental Protection Agency landfill levy. The draft budget has been impacted by the need to treat non-cash depreciation charges, which have increased significantly because of increased infrastructure network asset valuations, as well as the need for major remediation works for the capping of the Wonthaggi landfill to be treated as operational rather than capital expenditure. Notwithstanding the above, Council is proposing a sound and fiscally responsible budget with a balanced funding statement, a $3 million reduction in net debt, and a sound working capital position. 3 community engagement sessions are proposed at different Shire-wide locations, Cowes, Inverloch and Coronella, to provide residents, ratepayers and other interested parties with an opportunity to discuss the budget documents with council officers in attendance. Details of dates and times are included in the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fulmulter. Do I have a mover? Councillors?
I'll move it.
Councillor Thompson, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Temby. Councillor Thompson, would you like to introduce?
Yes, I'm happy to introduce. This budget has been well thought out. We've debated it many times, and I know there will be some people other councillors talking to it afterwards. But I'd just like to thank the manager and officers of the finance department. It's an excellent budget and helped us through the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Temby?
Yes, I'm impressed by the work that's gone in. I know with every budget there are some people who feel that there should be more here and perhaps less there. That's always the case. But it's a good budget and I commend it to everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Temby. Do any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Morgan?
Thanks again, Madam Mayor. I knocked on thousands of doors in Inverloch, Cape Patterson, Harmers Haven and Wonthaggi, not to forget Wonthaggi, of course. And I feel like I've heard a true cross-section of my constituency before being elected to this place. I feel like I know their priorities. This budget isn't perfect and nor can it be. As federal and state governments continue to hide under the table, cost shifting to local governments while again allowing 1 in 3 big corporations to pay no tax in this country, allowing Australia's 150 billionaires to profiteer during a pandemic and allowing our resources to be exported overseas for less revenue than it is being collected by student debt. Of course, this budget doesn't have everything our community wants in it. The sad truth of the matter is no local government in this country is able to service their local communities adequately, with our federal and state governments continuing to underfund us and simultaneously shift their responsibilities onto us. I'd love to thank my council colleagues and staff for their work on this budget process. It's been some really impressive work, I think. We're doing the best we can with a bad hand being dealt by federal and state governments that aren't giving our local communities a fair go and are prioritising their corporate donors over the needs of everyday people.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, well said.
No, I feel like clapping him. That was great. Councillor O'Brien?
Madam Mayor, look, I'm very sorry, but I have to speak against it. I'm so disappointed and almost outraged that we could only find $250,000 for the recreational reserve. Now, budgets are dynamic, and there's 7 million or whatever it is allocated to one or more projects. It's a projection based on what drawdowns are going to be needed over the life of that over this year. I won't be told that we can only manage $250,000 worth of work on the recreation reserve. $250,000, if we got all hands, all shoulders to the wheel, has gone in 2 months. So look, I know budgeting is hard, and I know the council officers have worked really hard on this. But since our first meeting in November, we've zeroed in on that figure, and that figure hasn't moved a jot. Now, we know this community has been waiting for 40 years, and the best we can come up with after 40 years is $250,000 and a driveway. It's preposterous. And look, I know it's a very, very small stone that's going to be, that I've put in front of an elephant, the budget being the elephant. But we must find more money for that project. We can't spend $250,000 and then stop and have our hands in our pockets until the next budget. We simply have to find the money, and if it's drawn from one of these ongoing projects where the drawdowns occur over the year, be that that's the way budgets work. That's the way budgets work. So let's get some money into this project. Let's get some momentum into this project so that when one thing finishes, the next thing is ready to start. Not that we get the planning done. 250, we're finished in 2 months with $250,000. And then what happens? So I'm really
Is that a
disappointed to
question,
see that
Councillor
figure
O'Brien, was that a
has not
question?
moved.
What happens after 250,000 spent? Oh, sorry, okay, I thought you had a question.
No, I'm just saying that figure has not moved. I fail to understand why that figure has not moved. It's such an important thing to this community on Phillip Island. It's a sensible thing, you know, and it's a good thing for the island. You know, 590 odd participants, you know, trying to cram their way onto the oval down the hill there, and they've been waiting 40 years. It beggars belief. It beggars belief that we can't get more into this, and show to this community, well, after 40 years, well, yes, we've finally heard you. Here we are. We're underway. Let's get this underway, and let's get some real money in behind it to make sure that it gets underway and it keeps going. The community can see it, and that, you know, we're going to get a result.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Bell,
Well,
how do you follow that one up?
know how to follow the last two, but I just would like to also say that it is an uncomfortable budget to send out to community, as it's based on the last council's priorities. I appreciate that the council machine is a big machine to kind of shift direction in quick time. 6 months is apparently quick time. And, you know, the community did send a very clear message in October by turning over 2/3 of the council. Obviously, the last council's priorities weren't in line with the community. So I agree with Councillor O'Brien that we do need to show the community that we are committed to the recreation reserve, as that was the outstanding issue last year during the campaign. And I can definitely understand if the community feels a bit duped on electing us, and here's our first budget that is based still on the last council's priorities. I understand there is a process. We've got long-term financial planning coming up. And I think through you, Madam Mayor, I would like to just make sure that we assure the community that we have listened to their messages, and that we will make sure that we'll try and get through this budget and listen to the engagement that comes back. And in that long-term financial plan and the 4-year plan, we'll make sure that there is significant funds available for the recreation reserve. I don't want the community to think that we've ignored them when they see this next 12-month budget.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Any other councillors wish to speak?
You want to go? Go for it.
Whichever.
Councillor Bauer?
All right, that'd be cool. Madam Mayor, fellow councillors, and especially this time ratepayers watching this meeting. This report quite rightly says that it is crafted along the 4-year plan set by the last council. This is a problem for me, as I believe there will be a different direction for the next 4 years. I believe we should get back to basics, the 4 R's: rates, roads, rubbish, and recreation. By adopting this budget before we have been able to bring in the new 4 and 10-year plans creates an unnecessary lag to our program. I believe that at this meeting we should be adopting the 4 and 10-year plans so that we authorise the officers to craft a budget for the projects that this council wants to achieve. The best example of this is the Cows Recreation Reserve, which has already been mentioned, which has shot up from the wish list from a 28-year hope to the most important priority for us islanders. We are effectively frozen into a paltry $250,000 for the next year, when the allocation should be at least $1 million. This report will most probably be adopted, but I wish to put on notice, Madam Mayor, that I intend to move a motion that we hold a mini budget as soon as the 4 and 10-year plans are adopted, so we can move forward on the new 4-year plan in this current year and not lose a whole year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Bauer has actually said most of the words almost exactly that I would have said. That regardless of our view of different issues or ideologies, that council's role is to get back to basics, and it's a thing that we heard loud and clear last year, that our infrastructure is very valued. However, I'd like to start by thanking our officers, particularly David and his team, for they've constrained by working a budget which is the previous council's plan, and we absolutely appreciate and respect that, and the hours and time that you've put into this is fantastic. We really do appreciate that. So this is no reflection. The concerns that councillors have around the table today is no reflection on the work that officers have done. We understand the constraints of the timing of this, and that this budget has been prepared in line of that continuation of the previous council's 4-year plan. So we understand that completely and appreciate that. And this is a draft, so there is room to tweak it. It's going out for consultation. And we also appreciate the work that's been done in terms of improving productivity through council and efficiencies, and that's a continual thing that's happening all the time. So I just want to make sure that the council officers know that we appreciate the work that they do, and it's certainly, the budget is certainly something that we can put on the table and go out to consultation with, and I'm looking forward to going to some of the consultation sessions myself, but at the same time, don't disagree with my colleagues' views here. Not necessarily, I'm not pinpointing that it be Cowes Recreation Reserve or anything else, but our budget going forward needs to reflect what this council's plan is, and that's where that change of direction will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I'd just like to add, given I'm the only one that hasn't spoken and it's such an important document. I'm sorry.
We give you leave to speak.
No, Councillor Temby's spoken, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I too want to express my utmost thanks to officers in the finance department of this council, given that the constraints that are placed on budgets at local government level are horrendous. You've got rate capping that doesn't keep in line with CPI. You've got cost shifting that is happening almost daily from state level to local government level. You've got EPA increases, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was it 28% that is being applied? You've got our incredible residents that are working so hard to stay ahead of the game and hold on to their homes while state valuations of land and capital is going up and increasing the amount they have to pay. And then we're trying to deliver in a peri-urban area of Victoria that's on the middle, and when I say peri-urban, that is between metropolitan and regional. We fall in the gap. We have so much pressure as an organisation to deliver the infrastructure and the assets that are required for a very fast-growing population, where we are forced to go cap in hand to be unable to deliver anything without support of the other levels of government. And we're not seeing, and I suspect we won't see into the future, as much of that money flowing through, given that neither of those levels of government have any money. In fact, they're going further and further into debt. And the fact that our officers have balanced all of that, as well as our demands as councillors, who, yes, we are in there and we're argy-barging with poor Mr Phil Malta and his staff, wanting things to deliver for our community, who are knocking on our door, and rightly so. And I absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly, councillors from Island Ward. I've spoken to the sporting clubs as well. I know they're absolutely bulging at the seams and they need this infrastructure. But we as a council cannot do this on our own. There is $250,000 in the budget for the Rec Reserve. For me, that's a start. It may not be big enough, but it's what our officers think is needed to at least get the ball rolling. Where you've been let down is previous councils have not added that recreation reserve, even though we paid $3 million for the site to buy the land last term, it wasn't added to the long-term financial plan. So I'm going to encourage the Island Ward councillors, and I know that they'll have a lot of strong support behind them, to make sure when we are looking at that council plan, long-term financial plan, and all the other plans and budgets that we're about to embark upon, that these items are in those documents. Yes, our council organisation at the moment is being driven by the plans of the former council. Unfortunately, it's just how the process has played out. But I have a strong feeling that you're right, Councillor Bell. The person's gone overboard, and I'm told that it takes about 3 kilometres to turn the ship around and drag that person out of the water. So we are trying to turn the ship around. There is hope, and I want to express that to our community. But given the constraints that our officers have worked under, I will be supporting this budget. So in saying that, I'm going to be quiet now and get back to chairing the meeting and pass over to Councillor Thompson for summing up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the councillors for all your input. It is unfortunate we are constrained by the previous council on this draft budget. However, I remind all councillors that after the draft budget has been received by and reviewed by the public, we do have the opportunity to add additional funds to the areas that we wish to change. And I believe that's something that we can do, and an increase in that particular area for the Island Ward councillors. Thank you very much. I move that this be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. All those in favour of the recommendation? All those against? Thank you, councillors. That is carried. Oh, I was suspecting that was going to come, Councillor Bauer. All those in favour of the recommendation? Councillor Edwards, Councillor Temby, Councillor Helsted, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Bell. All those against? Councillor Bauer, Councillor O'Brien. Thank you, councillors. Next item on the agenda, 8.2, Revenue and Rating Plan. Ms Taylor to introduce the report, please.
Through the Mayor, Mr Phil Malter will be introducing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr Phil Malter, that's your area again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is about Revenue and Rating Plan. Council endorsement has been sought for the draft Revenue and Rating Plan, which has been released concurrently with the budget for community feedback and public submissions. A review of this plan is required every 4 years following a general council election. The plan recommends the consideration by council of several best practice taxation principles, including the wealth tax principle that recognises rates are a form of wealth tax. Other principles include equity, efficiency, simplicity, benefit, capacity to pay, and diversity. No substantive changes to the current rating strategy and rating differentials are proposed, including the use of the capital improved rating system, a separate waste service charge, and the use of differential rates. Consultation on this plan will take place concurrently with the budget engagement at 3 separate sessions in Cowes, Inverloch and Coronella. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Phil Malter. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Temby. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Councillor Temby, would you like to introduce?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's really important that there's transparency, that people can see what's coming. They've got the opportunity to provide feedback and that we take that feedback on board. And I think that this should proceed as stated.
Thank you, Councillor Temby. Councillor Thompson?
Yes, I also agree with Councillor Tenby. I'd just like to point out, unfortunately, the farmers in this particular instance are going to be caught with the with rates and particularly the fire levy. And we do have 80% capping for the farms, but maybe that's something we can look at in the future. And but apart from that, I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak? put that to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 8.3, award of tender 24020 Wonthaggi Landfill Rehabilitation Works. Ms Kennedy to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the outcome of the tender evaluation for tender number 24020 Wonthaggi Landfill Rehabilitation Works. Interim capping is currently in place. However, the EPA has issued council with an environmental action notice to complete the installation of a final landfill cap. Officers have been in regular contact with the EPA to explore options for capping the closed landfill area. A preliminary quantity survey estimate for installation of a conventional landfill cap was received in Q4 23-24 financial year, and that had an estimated cost of $12 million. Following this estimate, officers conducted a thorough review of available capping methodologies locally and globally, and have since successfully secured EPA approval for an alternative capping design. The composite capping system will provide better long-term site stability and minimise environmental risks and management costs throughout the aftercare period over the coming decades. This project is a multi-year project in the 25-26 budget and strategic resource plan and is funded from the Landfill Rehabilitation Reserve. This report recommends that Council 1 accept the tender from Eco Projects Australia and award the contract for Wonthaggi Landfill Rehabilitation Works for a contract sum of $6,944,101, excluding GST, and 2, to authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute the contract between Council and Eco Projects Australia. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Kennedy. Do I have a councillor to... Councillor Temby, thank you. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Temby, introducing.
I think, first of all, I'd like to commend the council officers for having done the research and found a far better solution at almost, a little over half the price of what was anticipated. It's a better long-term solution. It's a difficult problem. It's always an expensive problem wherever it occurs. It must be done, and getting it right is important for all sorts of environmental as well as, no doubt, reputational and insurance reasons. And I think we've come up with a far better solution than the standard one that has been implemented over many years across Australia. This is technology that's being used overseas very successfully, and really pleased to see that we've had the courage to adopt this process for implementation here. And it will be watched by people right across the country because, it's an important step forward, and we're taking the lead on it. So I think it's excellent.
Thank you, Councillor Temby. Councillor Morgan.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd love to thank the council officers and particularly our waste management team for the fantastic work that they've been doing. I think all of us councillors actually had the privilege of going down to the Grantville facility to check out some of the work in person, and it's so much more than the tip that you'd imagine. And even if you never have reason to go down and visit, I do encourage everybody to go down and have a look at some of the work that's being done. I really hope that this capping method is, as Councillor Temby said, we're setting a good example for local governments in waste management. And I think if you have a look at some of the data that we've collected about our waste management from curbside collection, you can really see that there is an investment from our community. And we are very enthusiastic about our waste reduction and our recycling, and it's fantastic to see. And I really hope that some of the other councils who are currently engaging in waste incineration contracts, which are an absolutely disgraceful way of increasing pollution, take a look at what we're doing here at Bass Coast Shire Council and maybe rethink some of the practices that they're getting involved in. And it's just so wildly important that we get this right. As the EPA is suggesting by increasing fees, what was it, 28%. So let's do this properly. Let's reduce leachate, which is what the EPA is so worried about because it is just so toxic and expensive to transport. Let's do this once, let's do this right, and let's reduce our waste. There is only so much capping that we can do, but at the end of the day, we've got to stop putting single-use plastics into our production system. One other thing, if I could, before I hand over the call, polystyrene. Please stop putting it in your landfill bins. Please take it down to one of our waste transfer stations. We can recycle polystyrene now, but you can't put it in your commingled recycle. You actually have to take it down to our waste transfer stations. So please join me in doing that.
Good tip, Councillor Morgan.
Yeah.
Does any other councillors wish to speak? Does that mean Councillor Bauer?
Does.
Go ahead, Councillor Bauer.
Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting, notwithstanding the excellent work being done on this project, and I salute Ms Kennedy and her team on this, originally the amount allocated to the capping of the Wonthaggi tip was $3 million. The amount required to fulfil the directive given to council by the EPA has more than doubled. Yet another example of how a capital works project has blown out. We are lucky that we could extend the envelope tip capping down the track in the long-term plan, and thus council was able to cover the overrun. Houdini would be proud of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Does anyone else wish to speak? Oh, I'd like to jump in. I'm sorry. I just want to congratulate the Finance Department on the account they set aside for putting money away so that this wasn't going to be a huge hit on council. There has been money saved and diligently placed in an account so that this work can take place. So congratulations to them. And the fact that our officers are leading in this space is just awesome. $5 million roughly, in my head, I'm working the figures out, are saving to our community for the work that they've done. And it's quite incredible that a reasonably small regional council the size of Bass Coast has such expert officers that can find these solutions that not only reduce the cost to community, but also service our community well, in the fact that I understand we also are leading with 75% of our waste being redirected from landfill. So we're leading in the state for that. A little council, regional council of Bass Coast side. So, and that's a huge congratulations to our community as well. I mean, they're the ones that are doing the recycling. They're the ones that are using their bins the way they should. And for us to get to that figure is really encouraging. So I just wanted to, do a bit of a rah-rah. The positives need to be pointed out, and I like to focus on those. So thank you to Finance and to Ms Kennedy's team for all of the work that they've done in this space. And I'm going to hand back now to unless someone else wishes to speak. Councillor Temby, would you like to sum up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor O'Brien.
If I may, look, I'd just like to underscore that latter point about the community's use of the three bins. That on all of the indicators, that the Bass Coast community is leading the pack. And, we're sort of best in state, if you like.
Best on ground.
Best on ground. So it's a shout out to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Councillor O'Brien. Back to you, Councillor Temby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for all of the comments. I think all very relevant and pertinent to it. And, if we can reduce the amount of waste we take on board, reuse what we can, then our recycling issue is significantly reduced. But our council have reduced the cost of managing that landfill very, very significantly with a better product than what had been available before. So we don't need to say any more. It's a great project, and I put it to the...
Thank you, Councillor Temby. I'll put that to the vote. All those councillors in favour of the recommendation? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.4, appointments to council committees and external committees. Ms Taylor to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mayor. Council appoints representatives to a number of external committees to increase our advocacy efforts on behalf of our community. This report recommends that Council appoints Councillor Brett Tessari as a substitute to the Municipal Association of Victoria Committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Taylor. Do I have a mover? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Bauer. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Thompson?
Yes, I do. I think it's really good that Councillor Tresari is being nominated for this position. He has got long-standing experience and he will do us well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a procedural motion and I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. Any other councillors?
Yes.
Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to point out that Councillor Tresari has been appointed in his role as Deputy Mayor in that capacity. So while it's got his name in here because it's a requirement of the MAV to have a name appointed to this, under our allocations or appointments to committees, etc., when we discussed this last year, that there's certain roles that we have that we allocate based on the position. So there's certain roles that the Mayor has because she's in the role of Mayor, and the same with this one, Councillor Tresari has been nominated due to his position currently as Deputy Mayor, so that in future that will be allocated to those people who are holding those positions.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any further comments, councillors? We'll put that to the vote. Councillor Thompson, yep?
Yes.
All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried unanimously. Item 9 on the agenda, statutory reports.
I move to be taken as a block.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Do I have a seconder to... Thank you, Councillor Temby. That was to move as a block. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. So now we move to the reports themselves. Can I have a mover to adopt the recommendations of 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, 9.5 and 9.6? Councillor Bauer? Councillor Thompson? Do any councillors wish to speak to any of the reports? No?
If the vote be taken.
Straight to the vote then, councillors. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10 on the agenda is urgent business. I don't have any urgent business, councillors, so we'll move to the announcement of the next meeting of council, which will be held on the 21st of May 2025 in the Bass Coast Civic Centre Council Chamber, Baillieu Street East, Wonthaggi, commencing at 1 p.m. That the meeting be closed to members of the public pursuant to Section 66 of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider items as they deal with private commercial information being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage. Could I have a mover of that, please, to move into closed council? Councillor Bell, Councillor Temby. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And before we do, we're just going to, I'm going to thank those online who are watching the live stream of the council's meeting. The meeting will now be closed. There will be a quick break of 30 minutes where members of the gallery have an informal chat and coffee with councillors. So I'm now going to declare this meeting closed at 2:25.
Well done.